Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another Short War video, and today we have very big news coming out of mainland Russia, because today we saw the Ukrainian forces launch a major drone attack on the city of Smolensk, and those drones struck a Russian aviation facility which is responsible for developing and manufacturing cruise missiles for the war effort against Ukraine. So that was a big hit this morning and we have that on video. We also saw that the city of Smolensk itself was struck by several more drones, and it looks like Russian air defense took down one of them, but the rest came in and smashed those targets. So we have some big damage to show you from that. And also we're getting word that a Russian command post was struck by Ukrainian forces as well, and it looks like that damage was also very severe. And we're also getting word on another front that apparently the North Korean forces are having many friendly fire instances against the Russian forces, and that is causing some tensions to flare up between those two factions. And finally we're getting word out of Syria that apparently the Russians may never be allowed to dock back in Syria, as their contract has been permanently terminated by the new Syrian government. But with that, we're jumping into our first article of the day, which goes to null reports. And as I mentioned right here in the first post, you can see that a drone attack damaged the roof of a workshop at the Smolensk aviation plant overnight. It caused a fire, and the factory which produces X-59 missiles used by Russia and Ukraine is under sanctions at the moment. And apparently, even though it was struck by drones, it did not halt its operations. It kept the workers inside the plant, which tells you how desperate Russia is for that equipment to not stop being manufactured. And apparently another drone hit an apartment building in the Lenin district, sparking a fire and forcing the evacuation of 300 residents. So as you can see right here in the photo, this was the plant on fire right there in Smolensk, and even though the roof was burning down, they did not let the workers out of this plant to save their life or even, prevent injuries. They kept them in there and kept them working on these missile production facilities. So that is crazy to see. Once again, the Russians do not care at all about their workers, and as you can see, they kept them right in there in harm's way to make sure they're not going to run out of operations. But moving on to our next post here, we have one from Rocket Man, and this post right here provides us a little bit more geolocation about the location of the Smolensk aviation plant. And we can see right here it was geolocated, and as you can see in the first photo that we just saw a moment ago, there's the building right here with the sort of like brown shaped roof, and also the color of the roof is brown. And you can see right over here there is a tower. It appears to be maybe a cell tower or something of that sort right there. And in the next photo you can actually see there's the tower in green and there is the roof right there in yellow. So this was indeed the Smolensk aviation plant that was hit, and just more proof and geolocation showing you that that was indeed the case. So once again, very good work here by Grim Intel showing us that location. But with that, we are now moving on to our next post here, and this one goes to ENT Technical. And in this post right here, we have some spectacular and crazy footage here actually coming out of Smolensk. This was not the actual strike on the facility of the aviation plant. Instead, this was a strike on Smolensk itself, and we have footage here by a civilian showing the drone slamming right into a building in the middle of the city. So let's take a look at this. It's pretty up close. Damn, and look at that. It looks like the drone came literally right in front of these guys that were filming. And let me go ahead and mute that so I can replay one more time. You can see the drone come in right here above the sky, and you could literally hear it super loud. It was like right above their heads, and it flew right in and hit some target right over the horizon right here where the guys were standing. So that was insane to see. That was a very close strike. And also, we got to see an up-close look at a Ukrainian drone for once, right there on the camera. So a very interesting video here showing us these strikes, and once again, they were plentiful inside of Smolensk last night. But with that, we are jumping into our next post, and this one goes to War Translated. So this is another crazy piece of footage right here, and this is crazy for a different type of reason. Apparently, we saw for the first time in a very long time that Russian air defense took down an actual drone flying into Smolensk, and it looks like they were only able to take down one of them, because remember, we just saw the fire on the top of the aviation plant, and we just saw that drone come in and strike Smolensk city itself. So this was just one drone that the Russians were able to take out. So not very good odds for their air defense system here, but it looks like they were able to take one down. So let's take a look at the video. So right here, we're looking at the city of Smolensk. This is a civilian filming here, and in a minute, you're about to see a Russian interceptor missile being fired from one of their air defense systems, and right now, a Ukrainian drone is currently flying in. So there went the interceptor. It just got fired right now, and it looks like it's about to impact the drone. Right there, it just hit the drone, and once again, this is a rare sight for the Russian air defense, because usually they're not able to shoot anything down. And in fact, I don't know what their success rate is, like 10% or something. It must be extremely low, because it looks like out of all the targets here, we did just see, of course, the aviation facility get hit, and we also saw that other building getting hit in Smolensk, and they only shot down one of the drones out of all of those different targets coming in, and they used a very expensive missile to get that done that probably cost about 10 times more than that Ukrainian drone cost. So So not a good return on investment if I do say so myself, but there you go. You saw it on camera. The Russians did claim one little small victory out of literally plethoras of failures. But we are now jumping on to our next post here, and this one goes to Max24. And did I mention something about failures? In fact, we have a video right here showing one of the failures in Smolensk. Speaking of these Russian air defense failures, because I know some Russian bots are going to be down in the comments below saying that's not true. Russia has a very high success rate with their air defense. No, they do not. And let me show you proof of that right here in the video.
Ебать.
And as you can hear, this Russian is very shocked that apparently air defense didn't work in a struggle building right in Smolensk. What do you know? It did not work. And there's proof of it right there to show you that it is not working. And it looks like it caused a pretty big fire right here in Smolensk to the dismay of many Russians who believe their air defense was infallible. So there's more proof of air defense not working right there in the same attack in Smolensk. But with that, we are jumping into our next post here, and this one goes to Max24 yet again. And right here in this post, we got to see a Russian command post in Volnovakha getting struck by a Ukrainian attack as well. And of course, in the recent weeks, Ukraine's been smacking these Russian command posts in big numbers, and it looks like they got another one. Sadly, I do not have the figures on the damage or who was taken out in this attack, but once again, when we see Ukraine striking these command posts, it's usually a high value target that's in the building, and that's why they're striking it. But sadly, I don't have the information right now. This is very fresh news, and we'll try to get that before the stream tonight. But with that, let's take a look at this video. And sadly, we have no audio because this is a surveillance camera, but as you can see right there in the distance, there was that strike on the Russian command post. Also, we don't even know what munition was used right now, so very preliminary. I'm sorry I don't have more information on this strike because it's so early, but once again, you can see it right there getting hit, and I'm sure someone important was taken out in that strike, but we'll have to wait and see. But with that, we're jumping into our next post here, and this one's going to go to Nexta. And let's switch gears for just a minute because we have some more news about the story about that vessel which drug an anchor allegedly over some cables in the Baltic Sea, and we're being told today that the Helsinki court has seized the Eagle-S vessel suspected of involvement in cutting the cables of the Baltic Sea floor, reports YLE, and the decision was made following petitions from the companies that own the severed cables, and they hold the UAE-based shipping company which owns the tanker responsible for the damage, and according to the outlet, a petition for the vessel's arrest was also filed by Syria, which is apparently the owner of the Sea Line cable, and it looks like they're very upset that their cable was cut and it's caused significant damages to their company. So as you can see right here, here was a picture of the side of the Eagle-S vessel, which is suspected of cutting the cable, and right now that is currently in the custody of the Helsinki court, and it looks like it has been taken in. So once again, another revelation in the story of the potential sabotage here of that cable. But with that, we're also moving on to our next story, and this one goes to War Translated, because we're getting some more news out of Syria that things are not going good for the Russians down there, and they were of course ousted from Syria a short while back. And today we are hearing that Syrian media reports that the General Directorate of Tartus Port terminated its investment contract with a Russian company and requested them to leave the port immediately. And on January the 19th, satellite images showed Russian Navy ships from their Mediterranean fleet stationed near Tartus Port unable to enter due to a lack of authorization from the new Syrian authorities to access the port or remove weapons and military equipment. So this is a pretty big one right here, because we've been speculating for some time, because these Russian vessels right here, which let me show you the picture, these vessels are all lurking right outside the port. They are stuck here currently as they're trying to move into the port to pick up Russian equipment and also left behind soldiers, and they are not being allowed to dock for actually several weeks now. And now we're getting the crazy news that apparently the contract has been terminated with the port, and Russia cannot dock their vessels for the indefinite future. So it's starting to look like Russia may never be able to dock the ships there again, and it looks like that's going to be a likely possibility that Russia won't be able to return to the port, which would be a major blow to the Russian Federation. So another big piece of news of the bad happenings for the Russian Federation, and just more proof that things are not going well for Vladimir Putin in the modern day. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Military News Ukraine. And jumping into a different story this time, we are now hearing of the tensions rising between the North Koreans and also the Russian forces, because today we just heard that 3 DPRK soldiers, meaning North Korean soldiers, apparently eliminated 5 Russian armed forces soldiers, and the incident occurred on January the 13th of this year near the village of Veliki, and apparently in the Soldatskoye Kursk region, and the 3 North Korean soldiers apparently eliminated those 5 servicemen of the 810th Marine Brigade of the Russian Federation, and it looks like Russia put these guys on a wanted list. So I'm not sure if this was an accident, if maybe this was an accidental friendly fire incident, or maybe these North Koreans right here actually purposefully took out the Russians. I'm not really sure, but they've put these guys on a wanted poster, and I'm not really sure who they're advertising this to, maybe to the civilians of Russia or somebody, but they are currently looking for these these guys right here due to some alleged crimes that they might have committed against the Russian Federation. So things are not going good right now between the North Koreans and the Russians, so there is that. But moving on here to our next post, this one goes to Geo Insider. And I'm actually going to make this story right here pretty quick because we already know about China and Russia's quote-unquote no-limits partnership they have between their two countries. But just to cover this real quick, it looks like they had a meeting this morning on teleconference that was Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, and China said it's ready to take relations with Russia to a new height in 2025, and relations between Russia and China are self-sufficient and do not depend on the global situation, and that was said by Vladimir Putin. So there's really nothing really new here necessarily, but it does indicate that once again that partnership is going well into 2025, and China, even though it pretends it's not involved in the Ukraine war, does have some role to play in it, and here they are right here meeting the two leaders on teleconference literally right now on January the 21st. So with that, we're jumping into our next post here, and this one's going to go to Inside North Korea and Inside Geopolitics, and we do have some more news here about the North Koreans in Ukraine, and apparently a North Korean POW in Ukraine has stated that North Korea suffered a lot of casualties in its support of Russia, and that is actually quite believable. They've lost a lot of guys, and 1,500 North Korean special forces were transported by 4 landing ships and 3 escort ships belonging to the Russian Pacific Fleet between October the 8th and October the 13th of last year, and they made a 7-day journey by train to the border of Ukraine to fight alongside Russia. And remember, we've been told by these North Korean POWs, according to Ukrainian interrogators, that they were brought here not even knowing where they were showing up to, so they believed they were going to go train in some region of Russia, but instead they showed up in Ukraine and they simply were told to start fighting. So that is a story being propagated by the North Koreans, and it appears to be still the case that the North Korean POWs are basically sticking to their story. So they're still saying that even to this day, and once again showing us that Kim Jong-un does not care about his people either, just like Vladimir Putin. But with that, we are now jumping into our next post here, and this one's going to go to us on Twitter at It's the Enforcer. So before I jump into this post right here, let me give a quick disclaimer. I'm not making a political statement by covering this, and also we do not cover politics on this channel. I'm simply reporting this because it has to do with U.S. funding to Ukraine. But we got word yesterday that apparently an executive order was signed suspending funding for foreign aid for at least a period of 90 days, and the executive order stated that it allowed exceptions based on the recommendation of the Secretary of State. So once again, this was signed yesterday. Apparently, the intention behind it is to reevaluate and realign United States foreign aid and also conduct some surveys to see if that aid is going to the right place and other things like that. So it concerned people yesterday that maybe Ukraine aid was going to get cut off, and based on the sounds of it, I was also concerned myself. I was thinking, oh no, they've cut off Ukraine aid for 90 days. That would be a period of almost 3 months, and that could hamper the Ukraine war effort. But thankfully, we are hearing today, according to Null reports, that apparently the order did not suspend military assistance to Ukraine, according to Ukraine's counter-disinformation chief, Kovalenko. And apparently, according to Kovalenko, it's about other matters entirely. So clearly there is communication going on in the background between the United States and Ukraine over the foreign aid, and even though apparently the aid was halted for 90 days, it looks like Ukraine received an exception to that, and that is a very good thing, of course, because they are currently fighting in a very crucial time in the war, and they cannot afford a break in their foreign aid, or otherwise that could cause some issues unless the EU does not stand up. And it looks like we're in the clear here. It looks like Ukraine is going to keep being funded into the foreseeable future until something drastically changes, so that's very good news. And with that, folks, that is actually our last piece of news for the day. So first of all, before you leave, smack the like button and also subscribe to the channel as well if you already haven't, to stay up to date with the news as it happens and as we publish our videos on the channel. And also, by the way, if you enjoyed the video, go down to the comments below and put LSA and let us know you enjoyed the video. And if you want to support the channel financially, you can do so on our Patreon page, and the link is in the description below for Patreon, where you can go over there and sign up for a monthly membership and support the channel that way, which is a very big help as we're largely crowdfunded by the viewers, and it's you, the viewers, that make this all possible. And also to all of our existing Patreon subscribers, a big thanks to you all for helping to support the channel throughout these many months and years. We really do appreciate that very much, and if you might have actually noticed on our Patreon, we are posting quite a bit more in recent days, and we plan to keep that up well into 2025 to thank you all for subscribing to our Patreon, and once again, helping to keep the channel running and the lights on and the coffee brewing. But with that, folks, we will see you all at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight on our nightly War News stream, and with that, bye-bye for now.